I don't even remember what started the conversation, but it ended up with her issuing the challenge. Can I fill an entire album with layouts made only from scrap? Today, we are making a scrapbook layout with only scrap pieces of paper. I have these photos. I have this piece of designer paper, which I think it's Copper Canyon. I think it's the first Copper Canyon. I have this blue 10 by 10 inch cardstock that I got from gutting a frame in some other layout. I think it was from a virtual crop project. And then I might need a little bit of this gold shimmer paper to make a border. So that's the plan for this. Now, when I put this white refill page behind my papers, I am not really happy, especially where the designer paper and the white meet. Down here, there's more color and you can kind of see it. But I think I can do something to put a little more interest on this white refill page. And that's where I'm going to bring in the mixed media, the brushes and stencils. So as I look at my white paper, I have two of the more recently released stencil sets. One is called Summer Sun and the other is Splattered Elements. And I really love both of them. And I'm trying to decide which one I want to use. Now, I've already decided I want to use Nautical Blue. And that was one of the original colors as well as this brush. They came out with the advisor only test set, if you will. They were doing a survey to say, would it be a good thing for Creative Memories to add inks and stencils to their product inventory? And it came out from my quite overwhelmingly yes. Now, there are a lot of Creative Memories advisors and people who enjoy working with Creative Memories who've never used them before. And of course, back when the loss of the Close to My Heart company came about, they worked a lot with inks and stencils, and I loved their products as well. And so this is going a long way for me personally of filling the gap of what I felt I was missing. And because I did adore their inks, and I have to say that the Memento inks are a brand that I have grown to trust. And the fact that Creative Memories has endorsed this brand has just given me the confidence to know that's a good choice. So I brought out my Creative Memories craft mat. And I'm going to say again that I have a craft mat from a different brand, but I like the Creative Memories one better. And I think that you can see the stencils much better against the dark background. So I'm trying to decide which of these designs I would like to put as a frame around my white refill page. And there are so many, and they're all beautiful. And it is a hard decision to make. Now, I can pick more than one. I was one time thinking of this one, but I really, really love this. And I even like these two. So I will think it over while I get myself prepared. So the first thing you want to make sure you do when you're using your craft mat is that you do not see the words Creative Memories and that you turn your mat over. So now your mat is on the proper side. It's not a bad idea to have a dry paper towel and to wipe your hands frequently. and to give a wipe to your craft mat so that there's no residual ink from the last project you worked on hanging around. And my mat looks very good. I know I want to do at least an inch in on 3 sides for at least 1/2 of the page. So I'm putting down my paper and I'm asking myself, which of these shapes would I like to most see? Now, here's a couple of other things that you're going to want to have handy. Your peel and place tape. They were meant to go with this product. And so the first thing you want to do is to cover anything that you do not want to stencil. So if you don't want it on your paper, it's wise to cover it up. I'm pretty sure that I do not want this on my page. So I'm going to put some of the wider peel and place tape to cover up that design. And I don't think I want that little circle right there. I don't know if it belongs to this or to that, but it to me looks a little out of place. So I'm going to make sure I cover it. So I'm putting my block down for a moment to try to gauge how much of what I might ink is going to be seen in about the 1-inch margin that I'm going to be giving myself as I start the inking. And I think a good decent amount, especially when I start up in this corner and I come down, I may want to swing this over a little bit. Yeah, something about like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little pencil mark right here on my stencil. Can I do that? Yes, I can. So I'm putting a pencil mark on my stencil. And this pencil mark is going to help me gauge as I slide my template up and down. I'm going to keep that line straight on the edge of the white paper so I can kind of keep what I want on the paper. So I put this pencil line on my stencil, and it's going to help guide me in placing my stencil along the edge of my white paper right here so that I can stencil and get the coverage I want onto my white paper. Now, when it comes to stenciling, you have to be willing to just accept randomness because at the end of the day, that's what you're really going to get, a lot of randomness. Okay, I'm going to talk through this before I actually do it so you'll understand what I'm doing. So my first step is I'm going to position my template for the first set of brushing. And you know what? As I walk myself through, see, it's a good thing to walk yourself through it because now I'm seeing that I think I want to put a bit more tape to cover this. So I'm talking myself through the process. I'm going to position my stencil. I'm going to ink up the brush. I'm going to tap off the brush. And then I'm going to rub around the stencil. And then I'm going to carefully lift up my template. And I'm going to take a napkin and make sure I wipe the underside, especially. You can wipe both sides, but especially wipe the underside of your stencil before placing it down for the next set. Okay, that dry paper towel is what you're going to want to wipe down your stencil, and that's to keep smearing from the stencil to be carrying forth around on your project. You can also move your paper around, but you want this dry paper towel, and I actually have two. I think I'm going to have this one, first one for drying my stencil, and then the second one for drying my fingers. So frequently wipe your fingers so you don't get finger marks on your paper. Now, a lot of times when we do get those marks on our papers, we're going to end up covering up where the mark was. So it may not be the end of the world, but we're going to do what we can to avoid that. If you want to, and it's encouraged and not a bad idea at all, to once you have your stencil where you know you want it to be, and I do want mine up a little higher, yes. Okay. To actually just use a little peel and place tape on the stencil to hold it where you want it to be on your paper as well. So more than just covering up places you don't want ink to come off on. But now my template is on nice and steady. Okay, let's go. Now, I like to ink up my brush using a back and forth motion, and the reason I tend to do it that way is I feel that I get more ink from that motion than a circular motion. But I'm inking up my brush, and if you look at the brush, you can tell it's not even evenly inked itself, and that's why the daubing off a bit is helpful. And I'm actually going to start on the smaller design and then fully cover this design. And when I feel like I've gotten coverage that I'm happy with, I'm pulling away my tape gently because this peel and place tape can tear your paper. I have my gently peeling up. See where I got a little stain there, but that doesn't matter. And I'm wiping off the underside here. And I love how that went. And so I'm going to repeat it. I'm using my pencil line, and I made a line that was long enough so that it also is a guide for me putting this down what I consider to be straight. I will put a fresh tapping of ink, daub off, and I can see that first daub was a big amount there. And once again, I'm going to be more careful up against this end so I don't go off the page. And I'm actually feeling like I want a little more. And I think that that's good. See, I see ink on my fingers. That's why I keep wiping my hands. Peel up. And now wipe the underside of my stencil. And I still got a little extra. And there's other places, but the whole point is it is supposed to be messy, so that is not a problem. So now when I come down here, what do I do? And the answer is I'm going to just extrapolate. I'm going to put this down about there. And I like the look that's happening here. And as I'm coming around this corner, so I find myself at the top here where I don't want this to get the splotch because I feel like we already have this splotch. So I just want that part right there. And so I'm orienting my stencil differently, and I'm going to be getting the other side of this design right here. And now I'm going to do one final stencil this way. And I'm going to get this end of the splotch. And I kind of like how that's going. A little more ink. And I think that turned out lovely. Now, when I put my paper on, I really, really like it. And let's see what happens when we put this on. And now, yes, now I have a layout that I like. That stark white is not getting lost in this paper. So the next thing I'm going to do is wash my hands, clean my brush, and clean my stencil. I will clean my stencil by just running it under some cold running water and putting everything away. So I'll be back really soon. Popping right back on for a quick second, my clean brush, my clean stencil, and I wiped it off with this. So yes, your stencils and your brushes are cleanable. Now, there'll always be some stain on your brush, but you'll also be able to use it with a different color once it thoroughly dries. So there you go. Wow. Look at what that little bit of inking did. And it's simple, it's easy, and has a great impact. It turned that plain white paper into essentially a pattern paper. And I really like that so much better. So now I have these photos. I need to trim the edges and get them arranged. I may figure out if I want to do something, you know, an idea is coming. So let me get ready for the next step. So I'm pulling out the Bridge and Trees decorative border punch. Now, this is an edge style border, which is exactly what I want. And I chose it because where I'm standing, I'm on a bridge, and I'm about to cross over to go into this theme park. And so I think that this will give me the perfect edge at the top of my page here. I'm lining up my paper on this black line because I cut this way. If I wanted to cut in this direction, I'd line up with that black line. Now, because my paper is only 10 inches, it's not going to be as many cuts as a full 12-inch paper. Well, I have to say that turned out just beautiful. And my photos are going on beautifully. And now I have a nice little space for journaling or a title, which I don't think, well, I'll look and see what I have. I am almost speechless at how well this turned out. The stenciling, the border punch was the first time I've used it, and I had envisioned using it on photos for a different subject, but it came to mind to make it on this particular layout. And who would have ever guessed that this page was made with a refill pages and 2 pieces of scrap paper? So I'm going to adhere all of this down and then decide what I'm going to do in this spot and come back with the finished layout. And here's the final layout. This was super easy. I just found literally 3 elements or so to put down here in this corner. And it started with this nice large palm tree, which was an element from Tropic Time. And I let it cover some of the photo because it was just people who were in the background in your photo anyway. And so I kind of like having that covered up. And of course, I was inspired by the palm trees in the photo. The Just Having Fun and this little decorative sticker here came from the Totally Tonal blue sticker pack. And then I found a little scrap. I think this is from the Something Blue paper collection here. So I was a little monochromatic, but not fully, because I was saved by this Copper Canyon paper right here. And I'm just thrilled that 2 pieces of scrap paper could do all of this. So I hope you enjoyed watching this and got something out of it. And hopefully you will like this video, subscribe to the channel, and watch another video that YouTube is recommending right here.